Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. And so in this video, I'm going to be introducing Star Being, Uprising of the Id. Yes, this is the second book, the continuing saga to Day Zero, the recovered diary of a human star being. So it just felt like a wonderful sensation of completion getting this in the mail today. And now I finally have both books all done, and it's such an accomplishment. It just made me feel so humbled, to the point where starting in 2008 of August, the first book, Day Zero, the recovered diary of a human star being, or just Day Zero, the concept of it, was fully responsible for getting me as creating a trigger effect for me going on my spiritual journey. And holding that book in my hand when that was completed was a big deal. And bringing in Star Being, Uprising of the Id, the second book to it. So here's the back cover. You can see hopefully pretty well. Getting this in the mail today again was just such a completion, and a feeling of completion, and bringing this book to everybody to share. So I'm going to read out a chapter of the book, and I'll probably do some nice little snazzy effects while you guys are just listening in. But to kind of give you an overview of what the second book is about, I'll just read the back cover here, the synopsis. So, the continuing saga to Day Zero, the recovered diary of a human star being. The second diary of Anadria has been submitted to the original 12 translators for the public to view. This diary contains the single greatest challenge that Anadria has ever had to face. It entails a sequence of events that require her greatest abilities to be unleashed in order to prevent sabotage timelines from an energy never before realized that could be the catalyst to the human race's extinction. Affected by the horror of the one responsible unleashing this anti-creative energy, Anadria will need to make the greatest decision of all, to stop the one responsible that is of her own flesh and blood, or to witness the complete undoing of Earth and the entire galaxy. Dun dun dun. So, that's basically the synopsis for the second book. And this one again has a lot more of a greater challenge, a greater barrier for the main character to go through. As we saw in the first book, for those of you who have read it, we just kind of got an introduction to the Anadria character, of who she is, of being a human star being and being adopted by her ET family, and being raised on an ET homeworld, and just starting to understand her duties as the very first ever human Earth delegate. So I'm just going to read one of the chapters here. Now, the interesting thing about Star Being and Day Zero is that they have kind of alien pronunciations for the chapters. But when you purchase the book, and again you can purchase it online right now, the digital version is ready to go. It's on consciousmatrix.com. But the printed version will be out on June 30th. That will be available on consciousmatrix.com, and then you can purchase it through Amazon. But anyways, the chapter I'm going to read anyways is going to be called Coruscant, the Council. Okay, so let's get started with Coruscant Council. It was an interesting experience for me to return to the audience of the Galactic Council. I recall the first time I stood before all of these beings. Many of them could not imagine an Earth human in the same room with them. It was an offense, an outrage, and even an impossibility to see a human witnessing the presence of the Galactic Council. Now the situation has changed. I have become accepted. The majority of beings that once despised my kind held a higher regard for me and my people. However, I felt that I was about to ask of the Council would test the limits of their patience with me. As I remained seated at the bottom level of the council, the 5 high clerics had summoned me to the central platform overlooking the great central singularity, the holographic reflection of Asamanus' oversoul. Asamanus is just the name of the galaxy in that sense, so that's the galaxy's name of the book. As I acknowledged the request, the sight of all beings that occupied this council chamber continued to captivate me. It was only the second time that I was present within this chamber, and it still continued to mesmerize me. Beings of a great deal of shapes, colors, and sizes sat amongst their crystalline seats, carved directly out of the thin, crystal silver platforms that hovered throughout the chamber. All eyes were on me, as the council had now brought their attention to my presence alongside my friend Zell. Zell joined me as we rose together and stood at the center of the council chambers, lifted by a beautiful red crystalline platform that rose us to the center, where the clerics stood around us in a semicircle. The clerics in the center of the semicircle looked at me and bowed his head, closing his eyes as he did so. "You may share your thoughts with us, child," he projected telepathically within my mind serenely. I looked around me and saw thousands of different races staring back at me. They were in the moment with me, not attempting to jump ahead to sense the thoughts within my mind. I took a deep breath, and after letting it out through my mouth, I projected my thought to the entire Galactic Council. Earth was nearly destroyed. Its moon had to be removed from its orbit, as it was to be used as the instrument of its destruction. The intention was sabotage. It was conducted by a group of beings that have eluded my father, Lars' awareness, as well as my own. It is these beings that have attempted to control humanity as a type of resource for them. They have staked their claims upon Earth and all life upon its surface. I have come before the Galactic Council today to request shared action in exposing these beings, determining who they are, and preventing further intrusion between them and any other race that may be oblivious to their nature. The entire council chamber remained silent, absent of any thought. They had become frozen from the very mention of the beings I had spoken of. After several moments of mental silence, there began thoughts consisting of worry, leading to scarcity, that a topic such as this had become exposed. Directly in front of me emerged the delegate that spoke for their star of Cyana. The being had violet-colored skin and pale blue eyes. He was absent of any hair on his body and wore a Kiacharin. Kiacharin is a suit of animated light, accompanied through strands of fabric similar to the appearance of fiber optic cables that emerge from the shoulders of the suit, emitting multiple colors to express states of feeling. Wore a Kiacharin beautifully sculpted to the dimensions of his body. His face appeared quite worrisome, as the thoughts that followed were delivered with fear. Anadria, how could you assign attackers to this event? Did you actually feel the presence of these attackers you speak of? I looked back directly into his pale blue eyes and projected my response. My father knows of these beings. Through his mind I could sense what he had previously experienced, attempting to discover these attackers. All I know of them is a feeling. They exist within the shadows of existence. Their presence is highly parasitical, and they hold a great power capable of manipulating timelines that had previously been sanitized. We must emerge at full alert, and shared cooperation must be granted to track these beings down and cease the threat of any timeline that could greatly affect the flow of events and unravel chaos unlike anything we could realize. The Cyanan delegate looked beyond me to the viewpoint of the council's high clerics. His concern flooded their minds as I could feel the ray of his thoughts. You cannot possibly allow this Earth child to speak of this. She has discovered something she was not supposed to discover so early on in her initiation through the Galactic Council. This very request for our audience must not be allowed to continue. It must cease here and now, the thought projected. The clerics closed their eyes and slowly turned their heads toward me, projecting their rays deep within my soul. Anadria, as from what we have felt from the incident you have just stated, the incident was not caused by what your father or yourself believe. It is something that we ourselves are unable to clarify, as we are somewhat unfamiliar with the cause to this incident, yet somewhat familiar with its signature. What you have requested through your plan of action is not something that has been shared through this council since the inception of your Earth world. What you ask in regards to the council's cooperation in this matter is not possible. Your father had been successful in preventing such disaster upon your world of Earth. Therefore, this matter has been resolved and will no longer require further consideration on the scrutiny of its cause. I attempted to scan the energies behind the thoughts. The high clerics were adept at being very straightforward with their intention to share and did not leave openings that revealed more information. I could not sense this sudden concern that even the clerics had shared with me. What are you all so afraid to tell me? No further scrutiny? These are not the words of the council that I am familiar with. Pardon my interjection, but I believe further scrutiny is necessary. What if such a disaster were to happen again? Would that not warrant the action of further scrutiny? I projected to all of the minds within the council chamber. Young Anadria, your statement is highly illogical and unwarranted. You place superficiality pertaining to hypothetical situation, and that is not of the way of the council. As far as you have come being the vessel for a Samaness herself, the 5 clerics projected to me, you are not fully aware of a great deal of events that are too hazardous for you to know at this time. The council rejects your proposal for any further assistance in this matter. Your Earth's moon and the event in question have been successfully sanitized. This matter is not to be shared with the council again. You are dismissed, Earth Delegate Anadria. After this flow of projective thought from the clerics, they turned themselves away from me with their backs being shown, indicating that no further information will be divulged. As I turned to see everyone else surrounding within this enormous spherical council chamber, each delegate rose from their seat and did the same. Everyone within the chamber had their backs turned to me. With seeing this, a wave of great sadness came over me. I turned to Zell, who had not turned his back to me. Zell, the council will not tell me what's going on, but you must know. Will we be able to receive assistance from your people, from the Xanakovis? Zell placed his right hand gently on my shoulder. His left hand gently brushed my cheek as his body projected a bright green energy coursing through his crystalline form. It is for the Anadria to know that I stand with her. However, other Xanakovis will not. Their loyalty is to the will of the council, he said to me aloud. Other Xanakovis will not help us. It would require the full power of the entire race to track down those responsible for causing this. Without them, all timelines meant to propagate concurrently could be at risk. I was deeply worried. Zell, if we do not receive assistance from your people, we will not have an opportunity to find who is responsible. You and I cannot do this ourselves. We need more help. Your father will assist the Anadria, Zell responded. I nodded my head in agreement, but his recommendation was not comforting me. Yes, I know he will, but he does not possess the capabilities of your people. No one else is more aware of processing so many timelines. The Anadria possesses this ability as well. You are the vessel of a Samaness. Your energy is compatible with what a Xanakovis can perform naturally. The Anadria is a crystal, just as we are. I was surprised to hear Zell speak of this. This was a technique I was never taught. Through all of my training with the Andikai, I had never recalled any method that could allow me to be a facet of timeline filtration. Zell replied, The Anadria can be shown how to do this. I would be honored to assist her. However, it is important to realize that another vital component is necessary for us to proceed. The Xanakovis are able to oversee the timelines through the special bondage of masculine and feminine energies combined. Through a pair, much before us can be seen. In order for the Anadria to adapt herself to timeline filtration, another of masculine energies must accompany her within this training. Would my father be willing to be my partner in this learning? It cannot be the Anadria's father, Zell stated. It must be another that holds similar pure ability to you, who holds the capability to endure an intense experience as timeline filtration. Another is me. If that were the case, the only other with similar abilities would be. Zell placed both of his hands gently on my shoulder as his plasmic energy turned a deep red color filling his body. As his energy sifted through his body, my mind suddenly stilled. My pupils dilated and I felt as if my breath had remained frozen. In order for us to track down those responsible for attempting to eliminate the human race, I would have to ally with another monster, my flesh and blood, my brother, Cade. Alright, so that is a sneak preview of Star Being, Uprising of the Id. So again, you can get this at consciousmatrix.com, the online version, and it will be available in printed version on June 30th, and you can go to consciousmatrix.com and use that as a portal to go to Amazon.com and grab your printed version of Star Being, Uprising of the Id. Very, very exciting book. I had such a thrilling time writing this. I had a really thrilling time writing both books. Someone may ask, well, Brad, are you going to do a third one? I have a story for a third one. I don't know if I'm going to do it in a novel format. I would really like to do it kind of as an animated series. I'd really like to do something very visual if I was to do a third one. But I do have a third one that's kind of in the ethers. It's pondering right now. But we'll see. We'll just see how things go. Right now I'm just very, very happy with the Day Zero and the Star Being books. So if you haven't checked out Day Zero, again, you can get that on consciousmatrix.com as well. So thank you very much for spending this time with me and listening to a sneak preview of Star Being, Uprising of the Id. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Take care, and namaste.